Will the Dallas Stars bring their best tonight against Sidney Crosby and the Penguins? Let's talk about the matchup next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105.3 The Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Go ahead and hit subscribe. Never miss an episode of Locked On Stars, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Stars taking on the Penguins tonight, a one-city road trip up to Pittsburgh, and Sidney Crosby and a hungry Penguins team will be awaiting them tonight. So they will have a great test on their hands. Just want to say thank you for all your love and support. For those of you listening on YouTube, or watching, I should say, I know I got a different background. I've been granted access to the basement. I live with a roommate. He had an empty room, and he's like, you can go in there and do whatever you need. So I don't have to use his office too. So it just kind of helps out. I'm going to zhuzh it up and hopefully make it warm and welcoming. I have jerseys that I may hang up and do that typical thing. I also got this cool little lamp my dad got me. For those of you listening, I apologize. You're not going to be able to see this. Don't worry about it. It's a little NHL logo that lights up. It's pretty sick. So shout out to my dad for that one. Let's dive into tonight's matchup between the Penguins and Stars. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. I want to start here with Pete DeBoer, and he spoke to the media yesterday, and he had some interesting comments, and I thought it would be nice to relay those to you all. And he spoke on the Philly game and just on the start in general. And he said that he's not surprised that they're going through this bit of roughness, right? And he's confident they're going to get there. And then he also touched on the Philly game where he said they did a lot of good things, but the turnovers kind of tainted the game. And he went on to elaborate about it doesn't matter how good your systems are, your D zone, your O zone, transition, breakout, all that sort of good stuff. When you have those issues that arise and then they come back to bite you. And I think that's a great takeaway that he had, where he said it just kind of taints the game. And, I think he's exactly right in that. And it takes the positives that you did in the contest away, because these are also issues that we've seen in the first few games of the season. They just didn't come back to bite them in the rear end yet. And it finally came to fruition against Philadelphia, and credit to the Flyers, of course. So a lot of things to improve on. And I'm confident they're still going to get there, right? It's been a bit of a slow start. Hopefully these issues will go by the wayside here in the next few weeks. If we continue to see them a month in, then we're going to have a different conversation. But tons and tons to be positive about and look forward to, because the game was really, really good and the foundation was there against Philly. Just the last 10 minutes, they fell asleep, and that just can't happen against a team. And you have to be able to close out these teams. We've seen it in years past. Playing good opponents, you're up by 1 or 2, you got to shut it down. You have to shut it down and get a full 2 points, because who knows if that contest ended differently, you get 1, and then we're really sitting here having a different conversation. Okay, about this Pittsburgh Penguins team, they're 2-3 entering tonight's game. They've had a similar start to Dallas too, where they've had a lot of days off. They're not really playing every other day, and they're coming off 2 losses on the road. They lost 6-3 against Detroit, and then on Saturday night they lost 4-2 against St. Louis, and their head coach was not very thrilled with the effort and the result that happened on Saturday. They did outshoot St. Louis 33-21, but from what it looks like, did not get a ton of high danger chances. And this will be a hungry team coming into Tuesday. They've not played up to their potential or where they expect themselves to be. And that's a scary team with the personnel they have, and Malkin and Crosby, of course, and the big offseason for them acquisition was grabbing Erik Karlsson, the Norris Trophy winner, and they've had their struggles too right off the bat. So very similar teams, which I think will make for a very interesting game tonight because both sides have these high expectations, right? Stanley Cup pedigree type of personnel, and they have not played their best hockey yet. So maybe with these two teams meeting, it will bring the best out of both of them, and we get a very, very entertaining hockey game tonight. Jari played on Saturday. The goaltending matchup, I think, will be very, very fun with Jari and Ottinger. They've kind of gone head-to-head over the past few years. Jari just made 17 saves in the loss against St. Louis, so he's going to be looking for a bounce back. Their backup is Nedeljkovic, but it looks like Jari will go for the Penguins. And, of course, Otter had the night off on Saturday, and Ottinger has just been superb. And there's an argument to be made without him. The Stars could be easily 0-3 in his first 3 games, a .943 save percentage, 1.58 goals against average. And unfortunately, it has not been a walk in the park for him either. He's had to be spectacular at moments in each of those 3 games, and he's come through time and time again. So a great start for him. So the matchup in between the pipes should be a lot of fun. Similar lineup for the Stars when they practiced yesterday. The fourth line could always change. It's kind of a rotation right now with Faksa, Dellandrea, Steele, and Smith. So we don't know who's going to be the healthy scratch all the time until maybe around warmies, right? Warm up. They call it warmies nowadays. That's what the old kids call it. So Dellandrea, of course, has been out the last few games, and Steele has jumped in and done a fairly nice job. And he's a good penalty killer, similar to Dellandrea. Ty has a bit better offensive prowess. I think so. But Smith has been really, really fun to watch. Did not realize he brought that type of game. And he's been a great addition so far, and he can do a bit of everything. He's the versatile winger, hybrid / center. He wins faceoffs. He can penalty kill. And the fourth line's actually been really, really good and consistent for the Stars, which is all you could really ask for out of your fourth line. And they've chipped in offensively at points throughout the season. Just some numbers in Pittsburgh for the Dallas Stars. It's always fun to go off on these one-offs and of course, play a team like the Penguins. It just feels big, right? Stars, Penguins always brings a lot of eyeballs. Since 2010, the Stars are 3-8 in Pittsburgh. Remember the last game in Pittsburgh, which was a year ago, Malkin scored that heartbreaker. It was under a minute. I think it was maybe around 30 seconds in a 1-1 hockey game, and he scores late and took the air out of the sails of Dallas, and they came away with nothing when they really should have came with 1, but it probably would have been 1 anyways if they went to OT. We can be honest. It was not pleasant past 60 minutes last season, that's for sure. But they've been there 3 times already, and they've won 2 past extra time. So that's good news. They seem to be riding that ship. If there's one thing to maybe be excited about for the Stars this season. Pittsburgh, man, they have just so many guys, right? Evgeny Malkin, 37 years old, and they're similar to Dallas too in a lot of ways. They have a lot of veterans and some of the young guys, but Malkin's off to a terrific start. He's always played really, really good against Dallas too. 4 goals and 4 assists in the first 5 games for Malkin. Crosby's up there with his 5 points as well. Erik Karlsson, he's doing his thing, 4 points. It's a great acquisition with him and Letang. It makes them so deadly on the back end. Just so many guys can do can make plays at any time if you're not careful. They also added Ryan Graves. He was a guy that was in Colorado a season ago. Really, really underrated signing for them. Add some depth on the back end, but they really haven't found their stride yet as well. They played on opening night against Chicago and took a loss there. They ended up winning a couple games, and they've dropped their last 2. And they're not happy with how they played. So the Stars are going to get a very fiery, hungry veteran team tonight. It's going to be a very, very tough opponent and probably be the toughest game up to this point in the season. I know we're still at the infancy of this thing, but should be a fun matchup. I want to touch on some of the special teams because both sides have not been great on the power play. It's been a problem for both. And also some of the other things to look out for, some of the keys if the Stars want to walk out of Pittsburgh with a full 2 points. And we'll do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is obsessed with finding you great deals. And the best part about Game Time is before you get your tickets, you can see the view that you're going to get. And it has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event. So it's a great place to find last minute seats. Exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets, football, basketball, baseball, by the way, and you have concerts, comedy, theater, and Stars games, of course. With zone deals, you can pick the section, and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% the difference. What's not to like about that? Take the guesswork out of buying tickets, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL, LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Today's episode is also brought to you by Sleeper. Sleeper is the best daily fantasy hockey play of the year. When Jason Robertson scores that hat trick, it's inevitable. And when the Dallas Stars win the Stanley Cup, maybe not, but hopefully. And if you want to win 100 times your money, play daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. There's all these possible scenarios for the year, but to have the chance at winning the big one, you need to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. As the official daily fantasy hockey app of the Locked On NHL Network, Sleeper is our top choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey, when you have a chance to win 100 times your cash. You have all these studs throughout the NHL, especially tonight. All 32 teams are in action. It's a big day for the National Hockey League. You can choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus. Pick your favorite player and choose over or under, right? And you can get 100-time payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get those picks right because you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Let's dig into these power play woes, the power play problems, as I will call them, for both sides really have not had great starts on special teams. The Stars penalty kill has been perfectly fine. They're 12 for 12. That has not been an issue. DeBoer even touched on it yesterday and said he will throw his penalty kill group out against everybody. His personnel, he believes, are going to be just fine against any group. He would like them to be very disciplined tonight because Pittsburgh has a very elite group on that power play unit. There is tons of guys. So that will be a key in itself, being disciplined and not giving them those chances because they will make you pay at some point. They're only 2 for 13 on the power play. And of course, the Stars are 2 for 14. And we talked about this yesterday and we went into some of the issues, especially the turnovers at the Flyers line. And they may need to be a bit more willing to play dump and chase on the power play, which I know is not going to be the favorite option. Or they just need to be more careful and more decisive with their passing through the middle of the rink and not forcing issues. There's one less guy on the ice for the other team. Take the space that they're giving you and use it to your advantage. I feel they've been trying to force passes through the middle of the rink, force it through guys, and that's led to some of their problems. So I just have a feeling that special teams is going to play a big role tonight in this game. With both of them not having great starts, it just feels like something's going to give where one team is really going to capitalize and the other is not, and that may be the factor. Otherwise, special teams could never play a role. Who knows? Maybe we would play this game at 5-on-5 the entirety. And DeBoer also mentioned that he's liked their play at 5-on-5. I have too, especially against Philly. The Stars dominated, to be fair, for long stretches. They were stacking shifts. That second period, they had a 7-minute stretch where it was just shift after shift after shift. Were getting the puck in deep, being hard on the forecheck, creating negative plays for Philly and getting good chances on their netminder. And they scored all their goals on the rush, though, besides Sagan, which was right in front of the crease. But it was nice to see the Stars score some goals using their speed as well. And those wonderful wrist shots. Wyatt Johnston with a 3-point night too. Speaking of these power play problems too, face-offs are going to be huge in this one. Pittsburgh and Dallas have been wonderful face-off teams for years now. They're always at the top of the league in that category, and both of them right now 55% through their first few games of the season. So keep an eye out on the dots, because each team just has a plethora of guys that can win draws. Of course, Crosby's one of the best in all the National Hockey League. Sagan, Pavelski, Ben, you have Malkin. Gunstall can take draws for them too. They have a lot of good talent. Riley Smith is another guy that got moved over from Vegas, of course, from a season ago. Don't forget about him and what he can do. Former Dallas Star, unfortunately. He never panned out, but he's had himself a nice little career. So big props to him. So we'll see if the power play can kind of snap back into action for Dallas, because the personnel is there, and I've talked about it. I think it's going to click at some point, and DeBoer doesn't seem too panicked about it. He mentioned too, with Robo being out during training camp, he did not get a lot of reps. He got nothing really, actually. So everybody, I think, is getting on the same page. I'm always going to be a proponent to run it through Miro, and I know he runs the power play, but against Anaheim, when they had those few power play goals, working it up top, having Miro straight away, he can fire it from there, or he can move it off to the flanks, because teams are really going to key on Robo now on that right flank, that top of the right circle. Teams are going to take that away, which gives Miro, which is a fantastic second option, to get pucks through the first wave of defensemen or wingers, whoever's killing the penalty, and you have Pav and you have Ben in front of the net with their big bodies, and that can make a big difference. They need to be a bit more simple too. Use your speed, use the space that's given to you, and don't be afraid to do the chip and chase option. You have guys like Hintz that are so good with their speed, they can win these races. Ben's a great forechecker. If you got to lay some bodies on at the end wall, you have to do it. It's not what you want to do. Also, the Stars are always been so good off the rush on a power play, which I really love. I love teams that are not afraid to shoot the puck on a rush, like Rope's goal against Anaheim. That's a very key thing for the Stars. So face-offs are going to be huge in that department. It feels like a lot of goals, especially just in general. I would love to see the numbers on this. How many goals are scored within 8 seconds of a faceoff? Look at case in point, the Pavelski goal in overtime. If you can win these faceoffs, and of course with DeBoer, and he preaches having the puck, maintaining possession, and you can go from there. If the Stars can win that battle, I think they're going to be just fine, and it will help their power play to some degree, because they've struggled to win offensive zone draws, and they're having to go the full 100 or full 200 feet, which can put a lot of stress on your power play that's already been struggling. So Penguins 2 for 13, Stars 2 for 14 on the year. Just feels like something's going to give, and we'll see if these power play problems can be solved for both sides, hopefully in favor of those Dallas Stars. Big one tonight will be a lot of fun. Stars have not been particularly good in Pittsburgh over the last few decades. As I mentioned, just 3-8. So they will have a lot of things to work on, and I think it could be a very, very entertaining game. Evgeny Malkin has a 4-game point streak. He scored in every game this year except opening night. So look out for the veterans. You have Ben and Malkin, the ageless wonders, and Pavelski, of course, who's turning 40 next summer, which is pretty hard to believe. They just never slow down. And it's amazing thing what these guys are doing to keep themselves healthy. And Malkin, of course, has dealt with injuries, but still so talented and can be very, very effective. Always fun to watch Sidney Crosby too. That's always a good sign as another guy that has no plans on slowing down soon. Okay, let's play Shooting Star. How about it? Big one tonight, Shooting Star. Pause it right now. Give me your predictions. Who's going to be the difference maker for the Dallas Stars? And give me your predictions for the game as well. And we will do that in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sports book, #1 sports book of the NFL. And right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And you don't even have to play the NFL. You can play MLB. The World Series is coming up. You can play hockey. Why not the NHL? There's so many different options, and you have all those different types of options like spreads, player props, over, under. So don't be afraid to do it. And you can sprinkle some money on those Cowboys too, right? Big win against LA. Let's see if they can slay the other LA team and the Rams upcoming this week. So visit FanDuel.com/LockedOnNHL and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Time to wrap up today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you so much for making us your first listen, to making us a part of your day. I hope everybody is excited about tonight's game. Should be a fun one. I think these are two teams that are not happy about their play since the beginning of the season. So it could end up being a classic. And all 32 teams are in action. So there's going to be hockey on all night. You can have 80 TVs lined up. Maybe not 80. Let's 3 max. I don't know how your situation is. I have 1. But you could have like 4 different screens and you could have a hockey game on each. But make sure that the Stars are up big in center, of course, which I know it is. Which will segue into our Shooting Star for tonight. I'm 0 for 2 so far. I need one, okay? I went with Lundqvist. I believe it was against Vegas. I think so. And I went with Marchment against St. Louis on opening night, which he did score. Thanks, Evgeny Dadonov, for going offside. Anyways, I'm going with a horse here because this guy cannot be skunked for any longer. It's almost impossible. Jason Robertson, number 21, is my Shooting Star for tonight. Mark it down. Just a couple of goals for the young man. He gets the goose egg off the board, hopefully on the power play too. And that would be big. He has his longest drought, I should say, without a goal was 9 games. And that was back in 2020, 2021. It was that kind of weird 56-game season. But 9 games is his longest drought without a goal. And we're creeping up on 5. There's no way he gets held off the board for one more night. And he has a knack for scoring that goal and scoring in big contests. And this just feels like a big one. Crosby, Ben, Robertson, Miro, Carlson. It's like a battle of the Norris Trophy, too. The storylines write themselves, people. Robertson is my Shooting Star for tonight. Would love to hear your thoughts and your Shooting Stars. Should be a fun one. You have Jari and Otter in between the pipes. It'll be fun to see Otter once again. And we'll see who the healthy scratch will be. Steele has played the last few games in for Dellandrea. Maybe Dellandrea will get back in. I don't know. But the lines are starting to gel a bit more that Sagan and Duchesne Marchment line was really, really good against Philly, which is a good sign because we need them to be good, because then you can keep, of course, the Robo Hinsky line together, and then you can keep the Johnston, Ben, and Dodonov line, which has been spectacular too. White Johnson has been incredible. He has been so fun to watch. I mean, no way he's having a sophomore slump the way he's been playing lately. Great 3-point night the other night. Him and Miro back-to-back 3-point nights for the Dallas Stars. And of course, Joe Pavelski, no surprise, he leads the way with 5 points for the Stars, and he leads the way with goals in 3. So he scored 3 straight games. Of course he has. Whatever he's having every day, he needs to be kind enough and deliver it to everybody in America so we can all perform at that athletic peak at our time in our lives, hopefully. And then we'll all be fine. Okay. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you once again for making us a part of your day. Be sure to hit subscribe. Almost 2,000 subscribers, by the way, on YouTube. It's crazy. It's awesome. And I know I've been here for a cup of coffee, but I want to continue to grow it. So help us grow. Invite people, invite your friends, invite your acquaintances, and we'll continue to grow this thing. You can follow me on the Twitter thing at Joey the Jet 19. I'll be firing on all cylinders tonight for this one. It should be. I'm pumped up. I know I've said this 100 times, so bear with me. But I'm super excited for tonight's game. Stars versus Penguins. Puck drop tonight at PPG Paints Arena. You have a wonderful day. Enjoy it and get ready for a fun night of hockey. All 32 teams in action, so plenty of hockey to consume tonight, but more importantly, Stars and Penguins, of course. Alrighty, that will do it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow to break this one down. So long, Stars fans.